The political panel all-stars up shortly, Whānau, but now this week's extra 1-on-1 and 10 with environmental activist Mike Smith on the latest big polluter scandal details, his new High Court case and the political reality of El Niño peaking over New Zealand this year. Kia ora, comrade. Welcome to the show and thank you for being available to the Fourth Estate. Your democracy is grateful.
Kia ora, Bombers. Thanks for having us on your show again.
Mike, thank you. Yep. Sorry, mate.
The latest is the government's introduced a bill, as you would have heard, to stop our case from being heard, even though the Supreme Court unanimously ruled that it should go to trial. So they've intervened. They're under urgency, as you mentioned before. The bill is now before the Justice Committee and public submissions are open until 9 a.m. on the 13th of July. Which is 6 days away.
Since you were last...
So on a matter of...
Yep.
Go ahead.
Since you were last on, we've had the Ombudsman report back heavily criticising the Prime Minister's office for the use of private emails that have sidestepped any transparency, and you have relaunched High Court action. On what grounds have you launched that legal challenge?
So, yeah, we filed a judicial review, which just calls into question whether or not the processes the government have been using are within the scope of the law. So we're going to have that reviewed. And while we're waiting for the outcomes of several other inquiries around the government's handling of my case to date. Mm-hmm. So, but what I'd like to say to your listeners is that the issue is now shifted from the courtroom to Parliament. And the real question is, what are we going to do to remove this current government, I believe? I've had meetings with the Labor shadow cabinet and got undertaking from them that they will amend and repeal any amendments to the Climate Response Act that this government pushes through under urgency. And so the question, so that gives us real hope. And I'd like to thank the Labor Party, particularly Deborah Russell, who made an outstanding speech at the first reading in Parliament. Yeah, well worth having a listen to on Parliament on Demand. And so I think it's now in the court of public opinion, which is great because courts are very rarefied places. Only lawyers and judges really get to talk in the old witness. But the court of public opinion is a very democratic space in which we all can have an opinion. And I'm hoping that people that are equally concerned as we are about the attacks on the rule of law, the attacks on democracy, the complete one-eyed blindness when it comes to the impacts of climate change on the economy, on our social cohesion. People who are concerned do voice their concerns all the way to the election hustings this year.
Your activism has uncovered a web of entanglement between the big polluters and a government prepared to do anything to protect them from paying for the pollution they create. Why should voters care?
Well, you know, we elect politicians to govern our country. We don't elect corporates to govern our country. And I guess that's the fundamental principle that's at stake here. It comes as no surprise that there are corporate lobbyists talking to government. That's not a new thing. There's hardly any news there. What the problem with that is that when challenged and asked about that, the Prime Minister basically lied and said, well, you know, he had no knowledge of it. And but we had the receipts, we had the evidence.
Yes, you did.
That ironically was supplied to us by the companies themselves.
Yes, I know. Isn't it glorious?
Yeah, and so we're able to say, well, come on, Prime Minister, you can't be lying to the New Zealand public about this. You know, just be honest about it. Let's have a conversation about it. But the fact that he dug his heels in and he just continued to deny it, tried to push it off to one of his officials,
underlings. That's right.
Which is pretty standard operating procedure for politicians when they're in a tight spot. But I think it's been scandalous, and that scandal just has grown legs. It's stood up on those legs, and it's run off down the road screaming. Yeah. And I think it's really damaged the credibility of this government. Oh, yeah. Because what it looks like is crony capitalism versus cover up, which leads people to think, well, is there some kind of corruption going on behind the scenes? And so that's the impression that I think has been left with the public.
As you pointed out, Labor have promised to repeal any law National put up. so that you can continue your legal action. Does that help, and does it give you hope?
Yeah, it really does help because it means that the case doesn't die a political death over the next couple of weeks, but will be resurrected again, maybe not in 3 days, but certainly within 6 months if we have a change of government. And so that means that it's game on again. We can then lift the issue out of the murky political waters, put it before the courts, and using the expertise of the courts, the strong arguments on both sides of the argument that the lawyers will apply, and then let common sense be the determinant of what we need to do to reduce our emissions, because reducing our emissions we must do
Yeah.
if we're going to have any hope of having a stable economy, social cohesion, and a safe place for our grandchildren. We just have to do it. And the sooner everybody embraces that and leans into it, the better it's going to be.
We have extreme flooding today in the South Island, and the most extreme El Niño in 150 years is set to peak over New Zealand this summer. Is there a disconnect with the extreme climate change weather events we are seeing and a government enabling the biggest polluters?
Oh, absolutely there is, and that's the irony of it, Bomber, is that, Fonterra, being one of our largest dairy processing companies, has got a lot on the line when it comes to the viability of pastoral farming.
Right.
And back in 2017, when we saw the last big drought race through the north, there wasn't a cow left in Northland as the pastures burnt off and they had to ship off all the stock to the freezing works. So ironically, what they're fighting against is not in their short-term interest,
Right.
let alone their long-term interest. So I'm just like, come on, guys, just put your hands up, face the facts. It is happening. It's not going away. It's going to accelerate. And what we need to be doing is developing resilience and management plans to deal with this, instead of trying to on a wing and a prayer think that we can bluff our way through this. It's just no way to be managing a crisis of this magnitude.
You have angered the most powerful polluters in the country. Do you fear any retribution?
Well, no, I'm nearly 70, so I think my days on this earth are certainly numbered. But I want to make sure, in the interest of all of our kids, not just my kids, but all of our children and our grandchildren to come, that we're doing the best that we can to try to minimize the damage that we're causing, and to just set them up for a good chance of survival in the days to come. And I think that's worth every ounce of my time and energy and resources that I can put into it.
You're such a legend, comrade. Finally, Mike, what do you say to those who still claim climate change is a hoax?
Well, there's going to be victims, right? And that's really unfortunate. I would hope that everybody kind of wakes up and takes the personal or collective responsibility for what's happening, and to do the best that they can to safeguard themselves and to mitigate their own life situation against harm. But there will be people who would just willfully and blindly walk off the cliff. And at the end of the day, there's not much that we can do about that individually, but collectively as a government, we have a responsibility to all of our citizens, the good, the bad, the ugly, the onto it, the not so onto it, to provide the guardrails for safety for going ahead into the future. And so that's why we implore the government, do the right thing.
Preach. Thank you, Mike, for sharing your insight and oversight this evening. All power to your arm. Good luck in your battle, comrade.
Nice to see you again.
Be well, my friend.